Hello, this is Alejandro Bratti, Shanei Born, and CJ Kusler from Believe in Yourself, Believe in Your Business. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network on Single TV channel 250. Please remember to download both the Single TV app on their respective app stores on iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. The app is free. Single TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TVs, Roku, Roku Sticks, and all smart TVs. Today we have an amazing show. We are very glad that we are going to have America's Supermom. We are happy to have you here with us, Lachelle. This is amazing. We are going to be discussing a lot of the things in the mindset, in the depression, other areas that she has been going through. That has been like a lot of struggles and how she overcome all those things. So I am really thrilled to listen to your story, Lachelle. This is amazing. Thank you for being here with us.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. I am excited to always share my story because I have learned that this experience has helped me to grow, but it also helps me to be able to reach other people. And if you don't mind, I'd like to start with a poem that I actually wrote this morning.
Wow.
Perfect.
Please do.
Okay. I'm not a poet by any means, but this is what I felt led to share this morning. First time I've really written one. So
Wow.
it says, Dear Selfish, I pray that one day you will join others in the world rather than expecting them to revolve around you. How can I be so bold to call you selfish? Great question, because selfish was me. It is easy to recognize what is familiar and what was a part of me. Many of us don't know what we don't know, but what we know, we recognize clearly. How do I transform my selfish ways, you ask? I had to learn to love myself before I could truly love others. What is love? There are thousands of definitions, but one that I have chosen was taught to me from my father. Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. I now see that I have allowed love to fill my heart, and now there is less room for judgment, doubt, fear, jealousy, or hate. Life is good, and I now choose to see the good rather than the bad.
Thank you, Lachelle.
Thank you.
That is amazing, Lachelle, and a very good way to start the show. So let's start now with you, your
Mm-hmm.
story. Part of this is believe in yourself. The idea is
Mm-hmm.
going to be start with okay, what was the struggle that you had? I know that you have 15 kids. That is
Mm-hmm.
something amazing. I am trying to understand how to deal with two, but that's why and I really want everybody in the audience right now to open their heart because
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I was doing when I had this conversation with Lachelle before is like, okay, even when you are talking about kills, you start to, if you put the similarities with your life, with your corporate business, with your business that you have right now, you are going to start to find like, okay, yeah, that's me exactly. Even when I am not having 15 kids, I am having those type of problems inside my life. And that's exactly what I want to hear from you. Like, how was that life? How you started to deal with that?
Mm-hmm.
What was the thing that you did, and what didn't work, and what did you started to do to change that behavior later? So,
That's a lot of different information. So I will try to do my best. I will say that if anybody has any questions, to please put them in the comments because when you're dealing with your own story, you're not really sure what stands out to people, what resonates. So feel free to interrupt, interject, ask questions, whatever. But thank you again so much for the opportunity because I
Mm.
am now after my own journey with 13 years of depression and 3 hospitalizations, I
Wow.
am just a raving advocate for the importance of mental wellness. So anytime I get a platform to share some of my insights and a little bit about my journey, I am really excited to do so.
Mm.
So, yes, you mentioned that my husband and I have 15 children, and currently we have 10 of them that still live at home. And a little bit about my story was that I was raised an only child. So that is really the most thing that is really surprises a lot of people. I didn't have any siblings growing up, but my mom was one of 12 children. And during her time of being growing up, she was the first of all her siblings to leave home and go to college. And for her, that was a way of really turning the course of how her life began, because it started with very humble beginnings with her parents got a divorce when she was a teenager, and she saw a lot of her later years with her mother being a single parent. And so she really was on a mission to kind of rewrite her own story. So education was really the key for her to do that. So she had several jobs when I remember growing up, but the thing that lasted the most was her being an entrepreneur.
Mm.
She had her own business, and it was a tough time when she got started, but she kept on. She didn't give up, and so that was really the um, building block, that really fostered a belief system in me from a young age that education is the key. You can do whatever you want if you work hard enough for it. And so that was really my reality, was chasing this, what I call the American dream. So I remember as far back as I could that I always excelled in education. I got good grades, honor roll, and rewards and accolades for that. And that was really my course, was to just do good in school. So I went to college, the same college my mother went to, and was on this track of thinking that I was going to have a career, have a family with 2 kids, white picket fence, and life was going to be good until retirement or whatever happens. And I went to the same university, the same uh, I'm just fast forwarding. My husband and I met there. We had our first child before we got married, but were on this path of believing that we wanted to get married. So we got married after she was 5.5 months old. And with that journey, we started having more children. And our reality was not the reality that I grew up believing my whole life, So I went through an identity crisis, not really knowing how I fit in, because I always received that validation from other people, whether it was grades or, career accolades and things like that. So I believe that really was a catalyst in the beginning for the depression, because I just didn't know how to fit in. All my colleagues went on to have careers, everybody, all this was the life that I knew. And I just didn't know how to navigate through having a family, and a large one at that. It was just me and my mom and dad growing up. So I had chores, of course, but nothing really got dirty. So, for having dishes for a family our size, to cooking, to cleaning, a lot of these things I didn't have a system for. And if it was academically related, that was not a problem. All my kids, even when they were little, that was a area that they excelled in, because that was my strength. But all the other things were not. And so that was just a small portion of what my life looked like every day, was the academic life. And the rest of the time I was feeling like a failure, because I didn't have any roadmap to follow, so to speak. And so I think the biggest challenge for me was to endure some of these real life situations and not have anybody to help me through that. And I really didn't know how to ask for help,
Mm.
because, coming from such a background, it was like, if I didn't know something, I can research it, I can learn it, and I can implement it. But then when you have a lot of people in your household, and some people get it, some people learn differently. It was just this constant cycle of feeling like I was not getting the validation that I sought, in this eternal internal war with myself. And so that really was the basis, I believe, for a 13-year struggle with depression, but
Oh,
it really taught me a lot.
Yeah, and in that part, Lachelle, when you are talking about, okay, depression 13 years,
Hmm.
but you had already, I don't know how many kids on that time,
Yeah.
uh, and how you are dealing with that depression, and like, okay, but everybody else has to see a happy Lachelle, that it's like being happy that she has all these kids and is having a good life, or because you are like in the what you are explaining here is you are feeling like you have to be perfect, you have
Right.
to show that you are perfect, that you have a perfect life, that everything is perfect, that you are managing very well everything, even to your husband, I believe. So
Yeah. Well,
if
and
you
I
are
think
doing that thing and at the same time you are feeling depressed, how you deal with those two things?
so. I think that's a great point because, see, many people would. I don't know. I'd call it functionally depressed because I don't even know if that's a real term, because everyone on the outside didn't know. And I don't know if I was really numb through a lot of that time. I didn't really have a lot of emotion.
mhm.
My husband worked a lot. So he did retail. So he was away for weekends, holidays. In addition to that, he was an officer in the military. And then later in our marriage, he was a pastor. So a lot of the things that we started off with this mindset of, we didn't have a lot of support outside of our household. It was he and I. So if he was at work, it was just like, okay, he's at work. He's not here. So I got to do it because he's not here. I mean, who else am I going to call? So I had that mentality that, if he's not around, then it has to be done. So, I didn't really have time to process a lot, and so it was just being on autopilot.
Mm,
So a lot of the things, maybe they were issues that I would have, but by the end of the day, when he got home and I'm sleep, or, he would be sleep, it was like, for days, certain things would turn into bigger issues because I didn't have time to talk to him.
mm,
And then if he's at work, and I'm not going to call him at work about some issue at home that happened, what, yesterday, you know what I mean? So it really was a lot of an internal struggle with myself, not really having an outlet and feeling like, things were just piling up and not really having a clear path on how to do that. And so, my days were long. I would be getting up nursing and I wasn't getting a lot of sleep. That was one thing that I think was a real big catalyst. But I was very good at projecting the image that people thought was important, because most people are like me, and okay, your kids get to school on time. They're organized, they have their lunch, they're doing all these things. So everything that would be like a telltale sign, those were the non negotiables for me. I
mm,
made sure they got to school on time, that they were getting good grades. So that was really kind of like a saving grace for me because that really helped me to be a lot more functional, I think, than what I would have been had I not, because I didn't want people to kind of see anything was wrong, if that makes sense. It's kind of like you don't really know what's wrong, but you have to just, it's just going to get over and change the next day. Every day you're thinking, okay, we're having this kind of day, but tomorrow's going to be better type thing.
mm. So, Lachelle, I'm curious where in the journey you realize that you have high functioning depression. You say it's 13 years long, and so that's a long time to really walk through it. At some point, I would guess that you would be looking back and saying, okay, this is what I'm dealing with now. How far back did it go? So, where in the journey did you realize that this was, where you were standing?
Yeah, so during that time, I was hospitalized 3 times.
Right.
And each of my hospitalizations, my husband actually sought intervention for me because, he noticed the things that just weren't right that everybody else didn't see.
Sure.
And it wasn't until after my last hospitalization that I realized that it was a pattern.
Okay.
There were certain things that I was doing, and I just got to the point where I really did a lot of reflection for myself, to have that self awareness. So I stopped watching the news, TV. I got off social media for a while to really kind of begin to understand what my voice was. Am I doing these things because I want to do them? Do I feel like I have to do them? And then I began to realize the patterns. I was seeking validation from other people, people pleasing. I had no routine for myself. My days were just set up to where I would drop everything whenever someone called. It was like being in emergency mode all the time. If my kids forgot their lunch, I'm running up to the school. If the baby cries, I'm stopping and I have to nurse. Or if I'm starting dinner and something else, it was always this stop, never completing a task. And all those things just kept building and building, and just realizing and having that time to think and reflect, because there was a lot of things that I just did to stay moving that just made me numb about some of the things that were happening. And so it wasn't until after my last hospitalization that I really was afraid that this pattern wouldn't stop. And that's when I took a deeper look, and then I got into coaching and created my own strategy for how I could get out of that and maintain a life depression free. And that's when things started turning around. And then to really realize that it was 13 years, I didn't realize that until I was included in my first book project, which was in the end of 2018, but I think we got it published in 2019, where they really asked some hard questions. And I really went back and looked over my life, and it actually was 13 years that I was struggling with that.
Wow. And quick question, because I know that when you are talking about this, one thing is that maybe the people outside you can put a face that you are like, okay, you are perfect and everything is perfect because they are not like with you like every day, every minute.
Mm-hmm.
But you have your kids that are with you all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you deal with that like depression that you were going through? That and they were like they didn't notice that. Why? Because at the end it's like they are feeling everything that we are doing, and if today I am feeling bad, my kids know that I am feeling bad, and they are going to start to even to try to give me some kisses or something just to see if I can improve a little bit. So how you deal with that to be like, okay, they are not I don't want to pass all the things that I am feeling right now because I don't have time to do it. How you were dealing with
Yeah,
your
that's a good question, because really I think they didn't notice. This was where my identity was lost because I poured everything into my kids. They were my life. My calendar was what their calendar was. I didn't take time to go out with friends or do something by myself. I was with them 24/7. I'm going to the store with them. And it's so funny because now I have my older kids and I can say, hey, let's run to the store real quick and get a couple things. They're like, no, I am not going to the store, because their memory of going to the store was that it would end up being a 10-minute trip. It's supposed to be 10 minutes, but it would turn into an hour because people would always stop us. Are these all your kids? And then I'd have to tell them the story. And so they just remember every time they had to go somewhere with me, it was this long production. We had to talk to so many people, and they would ask, well, do you know them? And I'm like, no. And they're like, you know what I mean? They're ready to get out of the store. But so I think, I just poured, it was a diversion. And I'm glad that I had my kids, because it might have been alcohol, it might have been painkillers or some other crazy mess, but they were a smokescreen. They were always active in sports, extracurricular activities. So it was like we had so much going on a regular basis that I really didn't have time to sulk about things. I didn't have time to leverage relationships or create a strategy or any of that. I was just trying to make it through a day. And there was one time that we had as many as 7 kids doing soccer at the same time.
Wow.
And it's just me and my husband, and he's working most of the time. And some of the other kids weren't driving. So it was being responsible for all these different schedules, making sure they had their uniform, they had snacks, and, they've got their own soccer bag and all their supplies and all this. So there was so much happening my kids were exhausted. I was exhausted. Nobody really knew. It wasn't like, I had a lot of negative emotions, that type of thing. I was up doing things. That's why I'd say functionally, because I wasn't sitting in bed. I wasn't doing a lot of those things that most people would think would be depression. And that's why I want to say, and I'm so clear about speaking out about it, because it looks different for different people.
Sure.
It doesn't look the same. But I was always beating myself up in my own mind because I had this checklist, and all through my academic career, if I had something to do and I put it on my list, it was done. It wasn't like, I never had a situation where I didn't achieve what I didn't want to achieve. So it was really rough for me. So that's the kind of battle that I was having in my own mind.
Yeah, and I remember when we were talking before, you were telling me, okay, what I started to do is have like different masks that I was using depending
Yes.
in front of who I was.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about that and how that started to become like a real problem for you. But at the beginning was like something, okay, this is fine because everybody looks the face that they want to see and not
Yes.
exactly who I am.
Yes. So I'm glad you brought that up as well. So I was talking about how, a lot of the ways that I was able to navigate through a lot of this situation was because I did wear masks. So my husband had several leadership positions. He was oftentimes a leader with retail, whether he was a store manager or something like that. Then he was also an officer in the military. And that's a whole other thing. So he was a reservist, which later was called up for active duty. But there's this thing between officers and enlisted. The two just don't mix. And, there's this certain esteem about being in leadership in terms of being an officer that also goes with the wives. It was intimidating because you're supposed to know what people's rank are and how to address them and all this kind of stuff. So that was another thing to be dealing with. We had to go to several military functions, and just that level of discomfort and people esteeming you for a certain position, whether you feel like you deserved it or not. So that was another mask, feeling like I have to be a certain way. I don't want to affect him and how his fellow officers see him. And it was just a stressful thing. I felt like I couldn't relax and be who I was. It was always under the feeling like I was under a microscope. And then he also is a pastor. So that's another thing where people kind of put you on a pedestal and feel like, you're supposed to be having all the answers, holier than thou, whatever people may say. But it's a way that you kind of feel alienated from people. So whether it could be a nice position of esteem. For me, it was another area that I felt like I couldn't be myself. I had to put on this image of perfection, of doing everything right and not really being able to embrace who I was. So it was during that time of me really reflecting about, hey, this pattern and how long it's been, what are some things that I've done to kind of foster this belief system? And that was really the catalyst, in addition to having a coach who helped me come up with my brand as America's Supermom, because not only did it allow me to kind of um, interpret the American dream for myself the way that I wanted it to be,
Mhm.
but it helped me to merge being a business person and a mom in one brand. And because I've been able to show up as me, then it has really relieved a lot of that pressure to feel like I have to be perfect. I'll tell people all the time, hey, I'm not tech savvy. We can get on the podcast. If something goes wrong, I can't help you. I'm able to really admit the things that I'm good at and what I'm not. And before, I just felt like, man, I can't tell people I don't know how to do something. They're expecting me to do this and do that. And now it is such a different place that I'm in, because I realize that I don't have to do everything. I don't have to know everything. And it really has opened me up to so many more richer relationships with collaboration and just learning and really growing for myself and for other people as well.
Wow, I want to leave now to Shanei to ask something because I know that she's a mom also, and I know that she's going through some of these issues also. So this is great, Shanei.
Mm. Yeah, so Lisha, I want to know how do you cope with everything that's inside you and all the masks that you need to wear and you need to take care of your kids? Like, how did you manage that? Um, you know, to get to the other side, if I can call it that, or just to find some sanity in your head, because often it feels like your head is about to explode.
Yes, I think honesty was the first thing. And I have put away the mask. And it's so crazy because, right, I was very passionate about talking about this right during the pandemic. That's the chapter of a book that I'm in called My Life Mask Free. But I now know my space and where I am, and I'm able to accept my kids where they are. So one of my words for this year is restoration because I believe that I really want to restore my relationships with them.
Wow.
There's been times that, they didn't know, we all didn't know. They'd come home from school or wherever they were when I went into the hospital, and they're used to seeing me every day and I'm gone and not sure when I'm coming back, and that happened 3 times. So they are a victim with some of that lifestyle as well as myself, and so I realize that, and I know that there has been a rift between me and them because I don't know if they feel like they can fully trust me, if they don't want to stress me out, so maybe they don't tell me things. They keep a lot of things inside. And so, I'm really conscious about being able to restore that with them. And then I think the other thing is just showing them the truth. So there's this thing now. I'm on Clubhouse and I have this club. And then, I do my coaching and I do a lot of interviews. And the joke is, mom is always on this computer or she's always on her phone, and I have to really show them what building business is like. It is going to be times when it may seem like I'm doing this all the time, but I'm not going to always have these opportunities. And when you're building something, these are the uncomfortable things that are going on behind the scenes that a lot of people don't see when they look at your posts or how many likes you have or how many people saw an interview that you did. They don't realize that during this time, my kids are out of school and they're like, what are we doing today? Or, mom, are you cooking? Or all these different things. And it still is a challenge. But I think really being able to show them the truth that if I'm here, I can't be there, and really causing them to kind of step up to the plate because for years, I was the one who was doing everything for them. They couldn't even get a sandwich or whatever. I'm the one doing it. And now it's like, hey, a lot of you are old enough to cook. You could go to the store, you could grab something else for your siblings. But I still have 20 somethings that are at home and they're calling me saying, Mom, what's for dinner? So I don't let it bother me because, it is sweet, that they may prefer my cooking, but at the same time, I don't press myself like I used to. It's like, if you want to kind of see what I'm doing and be engaged in that, then, we can come up with a system. But, I think it takes really knowing what is important for you, not to say that what they're doing is not, but you have to be real about these things. A lot of these kids today think that you can just take a few pictures and put them on Instagram and you're going to be, the next Kardashian. Okay. But it takes time. You can't just be posting one thing one day. It's a consistency. So that's what I'm really showing them, So their story may be different now because they don't understand. And that's another thing I'm learning based on their level of understanding or what they're seeking to know. It's when they seek to know. I have a daughter that she had me do this Reels challenge with her in August. And, she's 21. She just turned 21. And so she couldn't get over the fact that I have more followers than her on Instagram. And so she's like, "How do you have more followers than me?" So I'm telling her what to do, how I grew it and everything. So she's like, "Okay, I didn't know anything about Reels." So I had somebody in my network that she wanted to do Reels. And so I put them together. He gave her some pointers. So she started doing Reels. So I know she's probably thinking, well, hey, she doesn't know how to do Reels. So she challenged me to do them. So we did these Reels for 31 days, and what she found was valuable because when she's looking at me and saying that I'm growing this following, she doesn't see how. That 31-day challenge showed her how much work goes into this, how much work it is for social media. So now she's on TikTok and all these other things, but that was an opportunity for me to connect with her, for her to see we have something in common. When we were doing those reels, she would be like, "Mom, have you done your reel yet?" And, we had something to talk about. And she understood that, man, this work that you're doing, that you're being rewarded for, so to speak, it's not something you just picked up and did one day. You have to consistently do it. So to me, I think that's the biggest lesson that she can learn by that experience.
And then have your other children, or have any of your children showed interest in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I have two of them that are actually all of them. They have a way of kind of having a different mindset about it. I have one who is into modeling and acting. Right now, that's just a dream for her. She's pursuing it in different ways as she can. I have two that are in like the music space where they write their own music, perform it. Then another, a lot of them want to be in media, whether it's Instagram, doing YouTube channels, stuff like that. So they all kind of have that mindset of having something that's their own. We have even our one of our sons who is into computers. He's in the eighth grade, but he likes to do websites, and he does little projects for his older siblings and stuff. So they all kind of have that mindset of having things and following their dreams and being visionaries.
That's awesome. And how do you maintain that? Because, well, not maintain, how do you encourage them? Because as a mom, like when I have to work late in the evenings or early in the mornings and I can't be with my child, it's always so, you worry about, I'm working all the time. Like you said, you're in front of the computer and you worry about, I'm not spending enough time with my kid. And when you're with your kid, you're like, oh, I need to go do this. Like how do you show them balance? How do you
Yeah.
teach them balance?
Well, the first thing is that there is no balance. That's just my feeling. That's
Okay.
something that people that don't know anything about what they're talking about, they say it sounds good, but it's not true. So really being truthful with them about that, but just capturing 15 to 20 minutes. If you play a video game with your kids, I mean, I'm really not into the video games because I'm kind of an extremist that if I get into something, it's kind of hard for me to put it
Mhm.
down. So
Yeah.
one of the things that I do a lot is I play solitaire on my phone. So my husband's like, "Man, you're always playing that, but it is relaxing." But
Yeah.
I know that if I get into video games, that just would not work for me because I'd be trying to play them a lot. So maybe it's a board game, maybe it's cards, or just taking time to color. It's the quality time that's important with the kids. If you decide to make cookies or something, make it where it's a start and an ending for you. Even if you're playing a board game, like one of the things that our kids like to play is Monopoly. But they're like, oh, every time they think about Monopoly, they think that game is too long. I don't want to play or whatever. And so we set a timer. So it's like, hey, we're going to play it for this amount of time and then that's going to be it. So thinking about a start and an ending, but then being intentional when you're with them. So if it's like, we're going to play this game, but we're going to focus on this game completely. My phone's not going to be there. I'm going to do this for this amount of time because we want to be able to create memories for our kids.
Mhm.
And
Right.
I also include them in my goals. So, like, if I have a book or something that I want to complete, then I will tie in something that they want to do. Maybe they want to go to an amusement park, or we go to the movies as a family, or out to dinner, or whatever. And then that way they're invested in me accomplishing my goal and we all can win at the same time. Because I think a lot of times we just take it that kids understand what we're working on. I remember when I got my book done and they came and delivered them to the house, and the kids were like, Mommy, this is your book, because they don't understand when you say I'm writing a book and it's in a computer or on a phone, they don't understand. But when they physically see what you've been working on, they're able to celebrate it with you. So just finding ways that you can incorporate them into your goals and giving them small things that you can do. Hey, if I get this done early or meet my deadline, we're going to go out for ice cream, or whatever. And it doesn't have to be big things. Kids are really not
Yeah.
materialistic. They really just want to have time with us. So, finding ways that we can do it and, just having fun, having like a candlelight dinner, doing s'mores in the middle of the week. I mean, a lot of the things that we do are not really costly. It's these simple things, but the fact that they have our undivided attention is really the thing that they are happy about.
And quick question, Lachelle. I know that for you, going back a little bit on the part where you started to believe in yourself and start to understand how to deal with all the issues that you were going through,
Hmm.
I know that coaching was something key in your life because it was like understanding the thing that you didn't know that you didn't know, you know. So how was that process? How much time did you need like to really realize, okay, I need to start to believe in myself. I start to have some time for myself. And that is really helped even my family and everybody around me because I am working to become a better person. Instead of feeling like you are selfish and you are just taking care of yourself and what is happening with my kids, nobody's taking care. This struggle that you have at the same time, how you deal with that and how coaching help you with that.
Yeah, you know what? I think that is still a current thing, okay?
Yeah.
Because I went from feeling like I felt bad, like if we eat fast food or if I didn't cook a certain day, I would just beat myself up because I'm thinking I'm at home. Why am I doing this? I could be spending my money better or, these type of things, but that's the reality of doing life with your kids and being open and honest about that. Even now, today, there are times when I'm just not with it. And I say, hey guys, we're going to have a mental health day. And they're like, what's that? That's what during the pandemic, that's when I talked to them about that. I said, mommy's not really sick, but it's just like, I have this mood. I'm not myself and I know that I need to rest. I need to not continue. I need to refuel my batteries. And, it's just a day that I can relax. And I actually physically called their teachers or sent them emails and told them this. And of course, they get a lot of grace because they're in a big family. And I didn't have an issue with that. But I really modeled that for them because there are going to be days that we just are not going to be 100, you know, and we have to realize that just being truthful about that. But a lot of these standards and limiting beliefs we put on ourselves, and it could be a history of doing things a certain way. There's sometimes my kids eat cereal, sometimes they eat peanut butter and jelly, they might eat noodles because I may cook something and they don't want to eat that. So I'm like, you know what? I made dinner. If you don't want to eat it, that's fine. You got some options. You can have cereal, peanut butter and jelly, or noodles. Okay. And those are things that they can make for themselves, even if they were in kindergarten. I teach our kids when they're young to pack their own lunch. So as soon as you start school, the first thing you do when you get home is you unpack your lunch pail, throw away your trash, clean it out, and then pack your lunch for the next day. So we get the lunch food items and we designate you need one vegetable or you need one fruit, this kind of thing. And we let them pick it themselves. And we monitor what they're packing. And then after a while, we're not even monitoring it. We just let them pack their own lunch and be self sufficient in that area. But I think it is really teaching them the truth. I think a lot of times we always try to follow other people's standards. And the thing that really causes burnout, overwhelm, is trying to do too many things and be all things to all people instead of really noticing that there's a limit. And so I tell them there's only so much that I can do. And sometimes I get it wrong. Sometimes I prioritize different things and it shows up later in other areas, but just being truthful about it, because I think we do our kids a disservice when we make them think that life is perfect when it's really not. Because then they will internalize and say, well, mommy and daddy never had a problem with this. So what's wrong with me if I'm not able to juggle and manage what they did effortlessly?
So, Lachelle, we want to recognize you. And also, we have a note in the comments from Lesbia saying how amazing you are and that how you're remembering right now your whole journey that I thought I couldn't, I did it. And now you're telling how you did. And she's saying congratulations. And we also want to recognize that. And I'd also like to further ask you, I mean, about your journey, how, you went from, you're focused on your kids and that's functional and it's not that balance. It's focusing on the one thing that really matters and going way out on the limb and really being that super mom and finding
Hmm.
that identity. But I'm wondering how you pulled back and you still remain and continue to grow in that identity of I'm super mom. But how did pulling back and finding in the process of coaching, how do you find that self love and how does that inform? Do you have maybe some practical ways how loving yourself informs your kids? You mentioned a few where you said, I'm just real with them about these are our limitations and it informs them so that they can go forward. Are there any other ways that you would say, this is how I learn self love and this is how it informs my kids to love themselves even when we fall short?
Yes. So, great question. And I think that really comes from really being open about, excuse my family is here. You hear these voices in the background, but I think it is really accepting your flaws.
Hmm.
See, I can get on this interview and people are like, amazing and all this, but I'm still mom at the end of the day, or I'm still my husband's spouse.
Mhm.
So we're talking about a subject, we're doing an interview, which is like one little small part in a day, but I have to be myself all the time. And
Mhm.
so we can have these moments when we shine, but then that does not going to excuse who we are just all the time. And so I think really accepting my children with their faults and understanding and teaching them how to navigate through them. See, the issue is, there's always going to be something. We may say things politically correct, but somebody else is still offended. We're never going to get everything right because we can't control that.
Sure.
But the key is to focus on what we can control and not worry about the things that we can't. And a
Mm.
lot of that is if we can admit, I'm not perfect, I make mistakes, you're going to position yourself in a place to where you can admit that and you can ask questions and you can constantly work to get better. But if you have this mindset that you're ignoring a lot of your flaws, so much so that you don't even want to bring them up, you don't want to talk about them. This was one of the key elements in my coaching program, which is reframing your past. So a lot of us, we have these dark things that we experience, And then we come to some epiphany, we get out of it, and we don't want to remember it anymore.
Mm.
We forget about that part. And that was so important to help you to be who you are today. So it's taking those lessons from that past that gives you a place of empowerment to talk about it as a victor instead of a victim. So depression is 13 years. And I love how I call him ABC. He mentioned how I had kids during that time, right? So if I want to just be negative about that past, I'm going to miss out on some of the joys that happened during that 13 years.
Wow.
Some of my children were born, some of them might have graduated, different things like that. So I have to remember just to take the good things, take
Mm.
the lessons, and reframe them in a way that I can talk about that time and I can help other people. And it's a place of being empowered rather than being a victim. Does that
Mm.
answer your question?
Absolutely. That's amazing. Now, also wondering, Lachelle, because you're talking about how you help people, wondering if you'd like to share with us how people can reach you. I mean, how people can reach out to you, know a little bit more about your story. Where can people find you? You talked about being savvy on social media. Maybe some of these places where people can connect to your story even further.
Yes. So first, you can really Google me. I've got so many things. I'm out here everywhere, y'all. But I'm on LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, uh, pretty much every social media platform because I think the message about mental wellness is really
Mhm.
important. And I think if we just, everybody has their own inner voice. And that's what I really want to help people is to understand that you don't need me to tell you what your voice is. I just hold space for you to really eliminate a lot of the distractions, a lot of the limiting beliefs that prevent you from hearing your own voice. So I always use the analogy of me being a coach, like an athletic coach. You're not going to see the coach on the court playing the game. Okay. The coach is on the sidelines. He's talking to you about what you did right, what you might not have done right, what your opponent is doing. He's teaching you strategy, but at the end of the day, you're going out and playing your own game. And so I believe that everybody has it within themselves to play their own game. I'm just sharing some of my insights or the rule book or playbook or whatever so that you can get some of that information so that you can play your game better in life.
Mm. That's amazing. It's amazing. Wonder, Shell, do you have a couple tips as well that you'd say? I mean, even myself, having gone through depression and understanding my own mental health journey, and some of the things that have helped me, like drinking more water, thinking about better sleep patterns, feeding my brain with positive things, having better relationships. For you, having so many children, I mean, and then learning self love in the midst of, I would guess, somewhat chaos. How would you say would be your best tips to say, okay, in the midst of whether it's, you believe in yourself, you believe in your business, you believe in yourself as a mom to be able to do this and love yourself in the process. What are some of the tips that you would say, this is how, in the midst of everything that's going on in the world, in your life, in your business, do you have some tips that you would say, hey, these are some things that you can focus on, and what you focus on, you find. So how can you find the joy in the journey, even having faced depression yourself?
Yeah, a great question as well. I think it starts with a decision. Every day I wake up and choose to be happy. Now,
Mm.
for some people, they're like, that's not profound, but it really makes a difference in how I'm intentional in my day.
Mm.
Now, I don't, I no longer have the pressure of feeling like my success is wrapped up in whether I know the right answer or meet the right person. It's about my intention and actively choosing to show up. So I think we all have obstacles, and we have seen this with the pandemic. You could be doing everything right, but look at how it caused everybody to come to a screeching halt because there's going to be things that you can't control. However, how do you choose to respond to it is going to be the game changer because, obstacles are always going to be there, but how are you going to choose to respond to them? So it starts with your intention on what it is that you really want to accomplish. And then the other things start coming into practice. I think it's giving yourself grace and understanding. I've explained this to my kids because I
Mm.
am a totally different person than the one that they woke up to at age 46. So, age 46 was when things changed after my last hospitalization. But I explained to my son, I said, it took me 46 years to really find out who I was. And for you, that journey may be longer, it may be shorter, who knows? So I can't expect you, because I've changed, to just be a different person after 2 weeks. It just doesn't work like that. So I think we need to look for realistic things. And, you know, you have to have a support group, because they're going to help you to continue to grow, because at the end of the day, you still have the same family. A lot of times you live in the same house, you have the same car, same job. So a lot of the things are going to be familiar, and you can't expect some of those environments to accommodate the new you. It's about you showing who you are and giving them the space and empathy to want to change and learn and navigate with you being different than how you were, because it can be very intimidating. You've been doing things for years and then boom, you're not the same person. A lot of people can take that personally, but it's just that whole thing of really building up that inner man, so to
Mm.
speak, so that the things that they say, you understand where it's coming from. It's hard. I mean, I look at things with COVID, people are so tired of wearing masks,
Mm.
but the reality is that's where we are. We hate maybe sometimes where we're at today, but we can't go back. We just can't. So now, people have a hard time with that, so we just have to be patient. We have to understand that it's part of the process, but everybody doesn't do well with that. But that doesn't have to be your story, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And one more thing, Lachelle, if you don't mind, I'm curious
Mhm.
because I'm hearing it in your language and I think it's really beautiful, is two things. One, the importance of support group and of
Mhm.
coaching and that self-development and leadership piece. But second, and more importantly, your faith and how those two are tied together. If you could share a bit about that.
Yeah. So, I just am a person who believes the Bible completely for what
Mm.
it is.
Amazing.
But at the same time, I really am clear about meeting people where they are.
Hmm.
I'm not going to talk 1,000 scriptures to you if you've never read the Bible. I mean, that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But I think what happens is, we kind of get comfortable with that. And to me, being a good example is how you live your life.
Yeah.
I could tell you about the Bible, but the best example is for me to live my life that way. So then you could say, "Oh, that's what that means." We can
Hmm.
talk to our kids about love, but they don't know what that looks like unless you're being an example for that. So there's oftentimes that many people say a lot of things, but then when we dig a little deeper, we find, well, their life is not a representation of that. So I think it is really taking the time to listen to other people, and helping them where they are. This has been so impactful for me with a lot of moms, especially during the pandemic, because they were struggling with working from home, their kids being at home. It was really a challenge, and I did a lot of master classes with them during that time. But it is learning to meet people where they are. I'm not going to talk to you about 12 steps to being a millionaire if you're just concerned about how to begin making money or how to start your business. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
kind of like a lot of times people have this feeling that they're trying to help you, or It appears to be that way, but at the end of the day, that's not really practical things that you can use right now.
Mhm.
So being able to have this mixture of realizing that it's about being practical, it's about meeting people where they are, because that's really what they need.
Yep,
Yeah, you could tell them about 2 months down the road, but they need to know what can they do today that's going to help them.
absolutely.
Awesome, Lachelle. So this was really amazing. Thank you for your time here, and thank you, Shanei and CJ also. Here was amazing. I know that we can be having very soon another call that we can go deeper in some of the things that you were saying, but it was amazing. Thank you really for your time, for giving your story, for giving yourself to all the questions that we asked you, and really for me was amazing. And I know that for everybody that is here it was amazing.
Well, thank you so much. And I do want to add one other thing that CJ had mentioned about challenges. We were talking about 75 hard. And
Mhm.
one of the things that I would say that also goes with that self love is constantly pushing yourself out of your comfort zone.
Mm.
When you do that on a daily basis, which is like being curious, admitting what you don't know, it gets easier because there's a lot of pride to say, I don't know something. I don't know. We've just kind of been conditioned to assume definitions of words because we heard them so much. And then we look them up and it's like, man, I didn't even know that meant that.
Mhm.
So we really should challenge ourselves. But the thing that I have really learned about this challenge is how I am responsible for my own priorities. I am responsible how things work out for me in a day. And at the end of the day, it's been maybe 3 to 5 times that I have been down to the wire of 11:58, finishing some of my things for my daily challenge with this 75 hard. But it helps me to really look at myself in the mirror every day and say, you're responsible for your schedule. These are the things that you have to do. So I can't blame anybody. I had to look at myself in the mirror every day and say, if I didn't get it done, it's because I didn't prioritize or I didn't manage my time to the best of my ability. So this is another exercise that helps me have that reality check every day about how am I going to divide my time? How am I going to be successful in choosing the right path to do that? And then delegating and not spending my time in some of these things that really are not going to help me with that end goal.
Wow.
Thank you so much for that, Lachelle. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's true.
Yes, so thank you. Really, it was amazing. And for me, a lot of nuggets, a lot of wisdom in all the information that you were saying. And as I said at the beginning, really you can relate a lot of the things that you were saying today during this whole session, like, okay, maybe I don't have all these skills, but I have this all these things that I am trying to do at the same time, and I am trying to manage everything at the same time, and at the same time, and I have a lot of problems with them because I am trying to be perfect in all ways at the same time. So really understanding what Lachelle shared with us, and have some self-love and understanding, okay, have some grace for you also, that is key to understanding how to grow and have time for you. You can have 15, 20, 30 things that you have to do right now, but at the same time you have to look at yourself and improve yourself. Then everybody's going to be better around you. So thank you very much. It was amazing, Lachelle. I hope that we can see you very soon in another show or another way. It was great. Uh, Shanae, anything else to say? I know that we are all out of time.
No, I just think that you're such a huge inspiration, and your words of wisdom has really helped me, and they're going to stay with me during this journey. Thank
Mhm.
you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. That is so nice. Well, I would love to come back anytime you guys let me know. As you can see, I don't have any problem talking.
You certainly don't. And we love that.
Yeah, we love it.
Okay, so this show can be heard on the Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, live it. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Oh,
Looks like maybe we have some few more minutes.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's okay. I don't know if somebody that is listening to us, if you have any questions or comments. I know that we have, but we are going to be very deep in other things. But if somebody is listening to this audio and has some questions right now to Lachelle,
Perhaps in the meantime, was there anything else that you've learned from 75 Hard that you'd want to share? I mean, you've already shared so much, and
Hmm.
almost hate to ask, but I feel like you're a fountain of wisdom. So,
Yeah,
what?
I really think it's more, it's so amazing that it's really that inward reflection that you really have to face. One of the things is taking a picture of yourself every day. And for me, that was huge because, during depression, you're like avoiding mirrors. At least I was. I didn't want to see myself in the mirror. I would get dressed in the dark and just running from one thing to the next. And being able to position yourself to face yourself every day, I think there's something to that to really help you to grow. But that has really been a great thing that I have learned
Hmm.
is that personal accountability.
and also the little things, because you are talking about like every day, but you are not doing like big things every day. It's just little things that are like the foundation of something that you are doing, and at the end you have 75 days that you are creating something bigger. But sometimes we are thinking like, okay, that thing is so big that I can do it like ever,
Right.
but when you
So
start
true.
with little steps every day, that start to create something bigger. And sometimes that is difficult to see when we
Yeah.
want to have a dream. It's like, yeah, I have the dream of creating this big thing, and I want to create all those things. And okay, divide that in single steps that you can start to do every day, and
Hmm.
suddenly you are in another place.
So true. I think one thing that I would even add too is I have an acronym for helping us to be proactive with our mental wellness, and
Hmm.
it is for the word smile. So it consists of 5 different areas that we really need to check in with every day to help us to make sure we're mentally well. And that is your sleep, mood, inner voice, laughter, and energy. So I came up with this during the pandemic because I feel like we can always treat people after they've been depressed, but this is a way that we can kind of prevent that downward spiral by being proactive every day. So, those were areas that really were problems for me during my whole time with depression. I lacked a lot with each of those things. I was not in a space where I should have been. So that was something that I feel that if we do that every day, it kind of helps us stay grounded and have the right mindset.
Yeah,
Hmm.
awesome. Okay, so I believe this is the end. Thank you very much again. Uh,
You're welcome.
I really enjoy everything, and I know that if we continue, we can continue another couple of hours
Mhm.
going deep in each of the things. But really, what you shared today was like, okay, we have even to digest everything that you were saying, because it was key to even our lives and the thing that we are going through right now. So it was really, really important. Thank you,
You are
Lashon.
so welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Lachelle.
Okay, so this